You ever just stop mid-conversation and realize you're doing it again? Not yelling, not defending, just explaining yourself, softly, carefully, overthinking every word so it lands just right. And then it hits you. You're not even speaking to be understood anymore. You're speaking just so they don't leave. Don't get mad. Don't twist it. Don't disappear. It's not communication. It's survival. You keep saying, "What I meant was," and "I didn't mean it like that," and no, it's not that serious, I'm just saying," until your truth is so diluted it doesn't even sound like you anymore. And that's when something snaps. Not in rage, not in pain, just a quiet done. Done watering yourself down for people who never intended to hold you properly. Done breaking your voice just to make someone feel comfortable in the presence of your honesty. You don't storm out. You don't scream. You just stop offering pieces of yourself like they're up for discussion. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you let silence say everything, you stop being someone else's emotional supply. And that shift, that's not cold. That's called coming back to yourself. There was this girl I knew, quiet type, never caused problems, always smiling, always understanding. And I remember this one day, we were sitting outside some coffee shop, and she told me something that stuck with me ever since. She goes, "I used to explain myself so much I didn't even know who I was defending anymore. Me or the version of me they didn't like." She said she spent years walking on eggshells, trying to say things the right way, trying not to come off too emotional, too sensitive, too intense. And every time someone misunderstood her or treated her like she was too much, instead of backing away, she'd try harder to explain. She thought if she just explained better, if she just found the right words, they'd finally get it. They'd finally see her, respect her. But they never did. Because truth is, the people who benefit from your confusion will never want to understand you clearly. So one day, she just stopped. She didn't announce it. She didn't make some big self-love post. She just stopped explaining. Stopped replying to texts that baited her. Stopped answering calls that drained her. Stopped rewarding her boundaries like a scared child trying to ask for candy. And you know what happened? They called her distant, cold, hard to talk to. They said, "You've changed." But nah, she didn't change. She just stopped feeding the dynamic. And in that silence, she found herself again. Not because she became heartless, but because she stopped giving explanations to people who had already made up their mind about her. At first, it feels weird, like you're doing something wrong just by being silent. You feel guilty. You feel rude. You start overthinking again. Should I have said something? Maybe I should have clarified. But you catch yourself. And that's when the shift begins. Because the silence that used to feel uncomfortable starts to feel like freedom. You realize how loud your life used to be. Not outside, inside. The constant overthinking. The rewinding of conversations in your head. The imaginary arguments you'd win 3 days later while you shower. Gone. You start noticing how much energy you have left over now. Energy that used to get swallowed up by pointless conversations, by trying to fix things that were never broken on your side. And more importantly, you start feeling dangerous in the best way possible. Not reckless, not cold, but unbothered. You walk into rooms without shrinking. You say no without explaining why. You leave when something feels off, and you don't apologize for the exit. And the people who used to pull the strings, they panic, because they never knew how to handle you not playing the game. You took the power back by saying nothing. And that silence, it's not just quiet. It's loud with confidence, loud with boundaries, loud with truth. Because when you no longer need to be understood by everyone, you become untouchable by the ones who try to use your words against you. Here's the part no one talks about. Sometimes the reason you keep explaining yourself is because deep down, you're still trying to prove you're a good person. Not to them, to you. You're afraid that if you don't explain yourself, they'll misunderstand your silence as selfishness, that they'll twist your distance into cruelty. And you don't want to be the villain in someone else's story. But here's the truth. You're not responsible for how someone rewrites your role just because you stopped auditioning for their approval. Let that sink in. You spent years thinking that being clear, soft, reasonable, patient would protect you. That if you were kind enough, forgiving enough, transparent enough, you'd be safe from being judged, safe from being painted as the problem, safe from being left. But no matter how many times you clarified your intentions, someone always found a way to turn your truth into a weapon. Why? Because they weren't listening to understand. They were listening to control the narrative. And the wildest part is, you let them. Not because you're weak, but because you were conditioned to think that your kindness was only valid if someone else agreed with it. But now you're waking up. Now you're seeing how much of your identity was built on being easy to love, easy to talk to, easy to forgive. You weren't asking to be heard. You were asking to be accepted. And you thought explaining yourself made you more worthy. But here's the twist. The day you stop chasing clarity from people who thrive in confusion, you realize the only validation that matters is the one that doesn't change when you're silent. You don't need to be understood to be right. You don't need to explain to be free. You just need to know yourself well enough that you don't flinch when someone else doesn't get it. When you stop explaining yourself, you realize how few people actually knew you in the first place. It's wild. You pull back. You stop over-explaining every choice, every mood, every shift in energy. And suddenly, people start treating you like you're the problem. Why? Because now that you're no longer handing out disclaimers, they have to sit with the version of you they built in their own head. And guess what? That version was never about you. It was about their comfort, their narrative, their need to feel smarter, safer, more in control. You were just the character they used to keep their ego fed. So when you stop performing, they lose their script. They panic. And that silence you thought would bring peace, it starts exposing how fake the connection really was. And yeah, that part hurts. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally seeing things clearly, without the noise of constantly justifying your existence. You start noticing who only liked you when you were easy to read. You start noticing who disappears when you stop breaking your back to be understood. And suddenly, keeping the peace feels more like self-betrayal than maturity. But here's the key. That ache you feel when you pull away, it's not loneliness. It's the space you need to come back to yourself, to detox from people-pleasing, to finally hear your own voice, without editing it for someone else's ears. This isn't you losing people. This is you losing the illusion that those people were ever real with you. And that realization, yeah, it's brutal, but it's also the most powerful kind of freedom there is. There's this moment, and it's not loud, not dramatic, but it changes everything. You're in a room. Maybe it's friends, family, people you've always felt a bit small around. And someone says something that normally you'd explain. You'd rush to clear it up, defend it, soften it, over-clarify it. But this time, you just don't. You let it land. You let them think whatever they want to think. And suddenly, something shifts. You realize you're done shrinking. You're done micromanaging how other people see you. You're not trying to fix the vibe anymore. You are the vibe. Because your energy says, I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be real. And people feel that. They feel the difference. You're no longer walking around with an invisible leash tugged by the need for approval or fear of being misunderstood. Now, you're moving from a place of stillness. And that kind of stillness, it isn't quiet. It's commanding. People start asking you things like, did something change about you? Why do you seem so calm now? Why don't you talk as much as before? And the truth is, you didn't lose your voice. You just stopped wasting it. You started speaking in energy, in boundaries, in presence. You don't have to explain who you are when you embody it. And that's the real glow up. Not louder, not flashier, but rooted, unshakable, centered. You went from, let me explain, to watch how I move. And at that point, no one can touch you. Because when you stop explaining yourself, you stop inviting people into places they were never meant to sit in. So here's what no one sees. After you stop explaining yourself, there's this weird stretch of time where everything goes quiet. Like, unsettling quiet. Not just outside, inside you. It's almost like your system doesn't know what to do without the constant urge to defend, justify, overthink. It feels off at first, like something's missing. But that missing feeling, that's just the space where your old identity used to live. And in that space, you finally have room to ask the real question: who am I when I'm not trying to be understood? You start catching yourself doing little things differently, not texting back just to keep the peace, not jumping into conversations just to prove you're smart, not carrying other people's moods like they're your responsibility. You start noticing your body relax in rooms you used to feel like you had to perform in. Your chest doesn't tighten when someone disagrees. Your throat doesn't close up when someone misreads your silence. You just exist. And that stillness? It's not laziness. It's power. You're no longer trying to control outcomes with words. You're letting your alignment speak for itself. And slowly, the need to be understood turns into something else. Something stronger. Self-trust. Because once you trust yourself, you stop needing everyone else to get it. You realize the ones who matter will understand your energy, not because you explained it, but because they're aligned with it. And the ones who don't, you stop chasing that. You stop sacrificing your peace just to feel temporarily accepted, because your peace is not up for negotiation anymore. Most people will never taste this level of freedom, not because they can't, but because they're too addicted to being understood. They'll keep rehearsing conversations in their head, keep rewarding texts, keep draining themselves just to soften the impact of their truth for people who were never really listening in the first place. But not you, not anymore, because now you've seen it for what it is. You've seen how much power you gave away just to make everyone else feel comfortable with your existence. And you're done with that. You're done handing out pieces of yourself to people who can't even hold their own. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them your softness. You don't owe them your story. From now on, you move, you align, you protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. This is your season of clarity, of quiet power, of not reacting just to prove a point, because your existence is the point. So here's what you do now. Let go of needing to be understood, and watch what happens. Watch how your energy changes. Watch who disappears and who finally shows up differently. Watch how you finally show up for yourself. And if this video sparks something real in you, if it cracks something open, hit that like button so this message keeps reaching the ones who need it. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you're done explaining. And subscribe if you're ready to protect your energy for good. We're just getting started. This is your reminder. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You just have to stop shrinking. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be real. Let them deal with it.